방금 기조 영상으로 만나보셨던 스티브 컨터 교수님께서도 계속해서 온라인으로 함께 해주실 예정이고요. 현장에서 함께 해주실 패널분들을 소개해드리도록 하겠습니다. 먼저 인하공업전문대학교의 정우철 교수님 함께 해주시고 계십니다. 경기해양레저인력양성센터의 송인석 강사님도 참여해 주셨습니다. 마지막으로 오늘 토론의 좌장으로는 팀 커벤트리 교수님께서 함께 해주셨습니다. Now I'd like to hand over the microphone to the professor, our moderator.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Steve, welcome, and thank you for joining us. Steve, I've got a couple of things that I'd like to just talk to you about. The presentation mentioned people who were doing HNC3, NVQ3, and other people who were going on to higher education, university level, to achieve level 6. Could you just talk us through, at basic level, how long it takes in years to train a basic technician until they become competent and can work independently?
Yes, no problem, Tim, and good morning to everyone. Yes, our training programs are varied, and the time that it takes to achieve the ultimate goal of being a skilled operative can range depending on the individual's background and experience. We tend to start from a position where we learn about our learners, we understand their background and their existing skills, so that in some examples we can then transfer those skills to the maritime sector. So in answer to your question, the time can change. In general, it could take anything between 2 to 4 years to become what we called a skilled operative within the maritime sector in a technical discipline. And usually this takes you through the beginner, intermediate and advanced levels that we would refer to in the UK as level 1, 2 and 3. There are then further options to go to higher levels, to what we call degree level, which is the HNC level you mentioned, which is our level 4, and then 5 and level 6. And that can take anywhere up to 6 years overall. But I must stress that this depends on the skills that you bring to the business or to the training venue, that we get to know the person, we get to evaluate these skills, and then ensure that our training program not only meets the employer needs, which is a key outcome, of course, but meets the individual need.
Thank you, Steve. So if I understand that correctly, if somebody came to SDC and they had no background experience, then to become competent to a level where they could work on an engine, for example, unsupervised, would take 3 years.
Yes, approximately.
Yeah.
Because it would also, Tim, if I may, it would also, of course, depend on their motivation and their enthusiasm as well. So there is opportunity to what we would term fast track. But I think as a starting point, what you say is correct.
I understand. And that comment relates basically to their ability to learn, because you can offer the learning, but if they are not taking the learning and using it, then it takes longer. But just for the sake of this discussion, 3 years would be a normal situation.
Yes.
Thank you. Could we now just talk about the model that you use in SDC? Because it's not just all at college, is it? The learner,
Sorry, could you repeat that?
The learner must be employed, and they've got to have a balance between what you're teaching and what they learn during the employment. Could you just talk us through that?
Yes, so we have several models of learning for a variety of different reasons. But again, to keep it general, we have what we call a full-time route, which is for those that are unemployed, and what we call in the UK apprenticeships, which is for those that are employed. So a key element in either route is the work experience that runs alongside the theory and academic learning. When we talk about academic learning, of course, we do break that into theory and practice. But alongside that, we have a work-based training plan where the individual experiences the workplace firsthand and can use those skills in a real working environment. And what we find is that helps them to develop those skills more swiftly and become more productive quicker.
And just to be clear, you mentioned in your presentation that you worked in partnership with employers, and that partnership would involve agreeing quite specifically what they would be doing and what you would be doing to make sure that there was a real balance and a complete process.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Tim. 100% correct. It is no good at us delivering any training plan without employer endorsement. All of our training, right from the day one, is endorsed by employers so that we are preparing individuals, teaching them the right skills that are needed in industry. We do have a unique design where employers support with our delivery, not only in the workplace but in the college, but that helps them to ensure that our curriculum is fit for purpose and helps us to innovate our practice swiftly.
So to be clear, what I'm hearing is that a big element of what you do at SDC is direct communication with the employers so that you can make sure that between the partnership of the skills and knowledge learned during the work time for the student is balanced by the work that you do to meet the needs of the employer.
Absolutely, that is correct. Our staff, we do not only just invite employers in to endorse our program, but our staff, our training staff, spend time in industry, on production lines, in engine shops, working alongside fully skilled operatives, learning the latest technology, getting to know the business so that we can adapt our training to meet that need.
The other thing that I just wanted to touch on was you mentioned again in your presentation was the need to change training to keep pace with technology and developments. And that's an interesting situation because at another presentation just in the other conference room, they're talking about new technology, the innovations that are happening in both power, propulsion, navigation, and all these things. So a big part of what you have to do is to keep up with those technology developments so that technician training can be relevant to what the market is doing today, tomorrow, and next year.
Yes, and a good example of that, as you saw in the video, was the development of the use of hydrogen. Again, you're quite correct. Propulsion obviously is a very innovative and changing part of the maritime sector. How we achieve that is by having direct relationships with the innovators, with the companies that are designing that technology, and they actually use our facilities and our vessels to test that technology and practice that technology. In return, our students, our staff work alongside those innovation companies with the product so that they're getting first-hand experience of the change. And again, it has direct impact on the curriculum that we're delivering. So again, I use the word, but our curriculum design changed swiftly to meet those emerging needs.
That's fascinating. I just want to ask my fellow panelists whether they have any questions to ask Steve. Would you like to ask Steve anything? Or?
네, 멀리서 좋은 프레젠테이션 감사합니다. 제가 몇 년 전에 SDC를 방문했을
Thank
때 느낀 건데 그 어떤 문화적인 차이가 꽤 있는 것 같아요. 우리 한국하고 영국하고. 제가 대학에서 학생들을 가리키면서 느끼는 가장 큰 것이 뭐냐면 이러한 그 새로운 해양 레저 산업이나 이런 산업에 학생들이 젊은 층들이 적극적으로 참여하지를 않아요. 우리나라에서는 아직까지는. 그러니까 미래를 조금 아직까지는 불투명하게 보고 있는 면이 있는 것 같은데 혹시 영국의 젊은 친구들, 젊은 학생들은 이 교육 프로그램에 대한 관심이나 참여도가 얼마나 되는지 또 그 참여도를 높이기 위해서 SDS에서 어떤 특별한 노력을 좀 하고 있는지에 대해서 첫 번째 좀 질문이 되겠네요.
Steve, did you hear that?
This is a really good question, and I think it demonstrates, although our cultures can be very different, we face the same challenges. We have overcome that challenges by trying to engage with schools as early as possible. We run specific activities, events that allow young people to access marine engineering, boat building, and composite activities so that they can experience it at a young age. And then what we try to do is build on that experience. So as they move through their school education, they are fully aware of opportunities with the maritime sector. It is a long-term plan, and because we are starting with some learners that are as young as 9 or 10, and obviously the activities relate to their age ranges to provoke excitement, enthusiasm, motivation, and as they get older, we start to introduce more technical aspects so that they can relate their school study to the sector needs. And we are now starting to see a increase in those leaving our school education, moving into our further education process in the UK and particularly in our region as a result of these activities. I hope that answers your question.
네, 감사합니다. And I have one more question. 자, 한 가지 질문 추가로 더 드리겠습니다. 이런 인력 양성, 이 교육이 제대로 세틀다운돼서 성공이 되려 그러면 물론 이제 지역 사회의 참여가 굉장히 중요하죠. 산업체의 참여가 굉장히 중요하고 그 못지않게 이 다양한 교육 과정을 운영을 하기 위해서는 그 티처의 양성 과정이 좀 필요할 것 같아요. 혹시 사우스데번 컬리지에서 이런 그 티처에 대한 양성 과정 코스를 별도로 운영하는 게 있는지 있으면은 뭐 간단하게 소개 좀 부탁드리겠습니다.
Another very good question. We've tackled one challenge this morning, which is about that pipeline of talent from a young age. The second challenge is attracting skilled staff to teach. At SDC, we value our staff and we provide a training opportunity for those staff to further develop their skills alongside their practice. In our establishment, most of our staff are technical experts in their field. We don't employ them with teaching experience, we employ them with industry sector experience, and then we teach them to teach. I hope that translates. But that allows us to build on their experience that they have within the sector, and it demonstrates to all learners that they have credibility. The key thing, though, as you quite rightly say, is to continue that development throughout their career with progression opportunities, including salary increments, to help them stay motivated, enthusiastic. We all know that teaching is very rewarding when we see people like, for example, Jake Cronk that was in the video. He is one of our students that started on our journey with us and has been highly successful. And when we share that amongst our teaching staff, those successes are what motivates us and helps us to improve our performance and improve our innovation. The third thing that I would add is that being involved in the development of new technologies is also an excitement. So again, I use the example of the hydrogen cells. I could use electrical propulsion or unmanned vessels, but our staff are involved in those activities and developments as well. So they are not only developing their practice as teachers, but they're developing their knowledge in a very technical environment. Again, I hope that answers your question.
Thank you very much. 감사합니다.
Steve, you've raised a very interesting question, which is on my list, which is skill shortage and remuneration. Everywhere now, in almost whatever industry you're in, is suffering from those two problems. The markets become very competitive. The choices for people of where they work and how much they get paid is now very open, and it's quite evident that the marine industry, as a small industry, is probably under great threat. You work very closely with some large marine companies. How are they confronting that, and how does that impact you?
Yeah, again, I think this perhaps is a global challenge. But for me, salary levels are directly matched to skills levels. So you would expect, as a workforce develops their skills, that their salaries would increase. I think that could be quite obvious. I think that what's important for us is to ensure that businesses see the increase in productivity and efficiency through the development of those skills. Effectively, they will then be increasing their income as a business to support their staff, which is probably one of their most valuable assets, and help them to develop, sustain, secure their own businesses.
Thank you. It's a very difficult problem, isn't it? Because if, as in an emerging market like Korea is, the people who are entering at the entry level to go into that, if they can't see both the progression and the remuneration, they're going to look at other industries where that will meet their expectations. And so it's something that maybe you might have an opinion on. Salaries and skill levels. How hard is it for you to get instructors?
네, 저 송인석 강사입니다. 저희 지금 수료생들이 나오면 제일 이제 작업 환경, 그다음에 그 샐러리. 지금 아주 최저 시급으로 하는 데가 좀 많이 있다 보니 이제 월급에 대한 그런 것들이 많이 컴플라인으로 들어오고 있습니다. 그래서 우리나라도 이제 앞으로 이제 조금 더 그런 쪽이 발전이 된다면 좋을 것 같고요. 조금 이제 고용주들의 생각들이 조금 변하면 조금 더 좋은 인력들이 해양 이쪽에 남아있지 않을까라고 생각합니다. 지금 저희가 해양 쪽으로 왔다가 다시 되돌아가는 경우들이 가끔씩 있어서 좀 안타까움을 좀 받고 있습니다.
So do you think that you could solve that problem by working more closely in partnership with industry?
지금 현재 그런 관련해서 업체들과 협력을 하고 있으나 실제로 지금 그 한국 같은 경우는 고용주들의 그 규모가 크질 않습니다. 그래서 사업이 크질 않기 때문에 샐러리를 올릴 수 있는 한계가 정해져 있고, 그다음에 국내에 있는 레저 배들의 수가 현저히 적습니다. 그러다 보니 이익을 창출할 수 있는 그게 많지 않다 보니까 아무래도 비용이 적게 나갈 수밖에 없습니다. 그래서 현재 자꾸만 고용주들한테 그런 부분들을 어필을 하고, 또 고용주들도 좋은 인력을 가지면 그다음에 그 사업이 더 발전할 수 있다라고 생각하기 때문에 조금씩 개선되고 있는 중이라고 보입니다.
And this question is to both of you. So the challenge right now is we do have a skill shortage. People don't see at the moment the marine industry as a very attractive career opportunity. However, we know that Korea, like other countries during COVID, the boat buyers have increased dramatically. The boat population is growing every year. I mean, I know, for example, that every year, almost every year, 20,000 people take the boat driver's license. And so that indicates to me that there's a lot of people boating. 20,000 a year is a huge number of new people coming to boating. So how do we bridge the gap? Because right now there's a lot of people boating, but there's not enough people looking after them in terms of servicing the boats, repairing the boats, and that sort of activity. How do we move from where we are to a situation where the people who are buying boats are going to buy the boat and it's going to be a pleasant, safe experience?
제가 생각으로는 이제 영국은 어떻게 보면은 전 세계적인 그 레저 보트의 이제 리딩하는 이제 국가고 역사도 뭐 100년 이상 되는 그 해양 레저라는 것이 하나의 문화로 이제 자리 잡은 국가인 반면에 아직 이제 우리나라 한국 같은 경우는 역사도 좀 짧고 현재 우리나라에 등록되어 있는 보트 수가 한 3만 척 정도가 됩니다. 우리나라는 그러니까 영국의 뭐 10분의 1 또는 50분의 1 정도의 규모밖에는 안 될 거고요. 그러니까 미래 가치는 분명히 있는데 그 아까 전에 제가 고민을 말씀드렸는데 과연 그 젊은 학생들이 그 미래를 보고 기다려 주느냐라는 게 참 어려운 점이 좀 있어요. 얼마만큼 오랫동안 이쪽을 보고 이쪽에서 공부를 하고 트레이닝을 받으면서 뭐 1년, 2년, 3년 이 산업이 더 성숙될 때까지 기다려 두느냐. 이제 그 젊은 학생들하고 이제 우리 그 티처나 프로페서들하고의 이제 항상 겪는 어떤 갭이 이제 그런 문제예요. 우리는 시간적인 여유가 있고 분명히 미래 가치는 있다. 지금 이제 팀 이야기대로 그 보트 수도 늘어나고 그 면허 따는 사람들도 늘어나고 그래서 미래 가치는 분명히 있는데 젊은 친구들이 그렇게 오랫동안 기다려 주지는 않아요. 물론 이제 우리가 좀 더 역할은 해야 되지만 그래서 사실은 저는 한 가지 거꾸로 이제 팀이나 그 두 분한테 거꾸로 질문을 하나 좀 드리고 싶은 게 그 젊은 사람들이 그 SDC 코스에 들어와서 뭐 하다가 보니까 나한테 적성하고 잘 안 맞더라라고 탈락하는 사람들도 생길 거거든요. 나는 이제 기법하는 사람들을 한 어느 정도가 되는지 또는 그 사람들을 그냥 본인이 포기하면 그냥 포기시켜 버리는 건지 아니면 또 다른 뭐 설득과 또 다른 코스로 안내를 해서 그 학생의 어떤 그 적성에 맞는 코스로 또 뭔가를 끌고 리딩을 해 주는지 저는 이것이 인력을 양성하는 데 학생들을 교육하는 데 있어서 굉장히 중요한 키 중에 하나라고 생각을 합니다. 그래서 혹시 영국에서는 어떤 그런 방안들을 좀 가지고 있는지 경험이 많으시니까 조금 뭐 설명을 좀 해주시면 도움이 될 것 같네요.
To answer this question, I need to go back to the curriculum design. We have developed a curriculum that at the beginner level is very multi-skilled. So our learners learn a little bit of lots of skills. So that may be marine engineering, maybe boat building skills or composite skills, and navigational skills, for example. And what that allows them to do at an early point in their educational or career is choose which of those they enjoy the most. And then as they move to intermediate level and then advanced level, they specialize in one of those themes. Now, this, in the most, stops dropout because learners experience a wide range of activity and then choose from their experience in each of those activities and then specialize. So we actually reduce the dropout from the start. I hope that translates.
Steve, they're all nodding, saying yes. But you've raised another point that I was going to ask you about, which is, I know that you are a great champion of continuous assessment, which is a two-way exchange with the student. Could you just talk us through how you work that system?
Yeah, of course, Tim. Our assessment of learners' progress is ongoing, and this is really important. Because there are almost two types of assessment. There is the ongoing assessment that the teachers will do, and that is supportive in that learners will demonstrate their developing skills, and then we, as teachers, we will reflect with the learners on those skills that they've demonstrated and provide support, analysation, further teaching as required. And that could be a range of different methods that help the learner to progress. There is also, of course, the formal assessment, which is usually completed to the end of a phase or the end of a year or the end of a programme, which is then completed independently by the learner with no support. But the ongoing assessment, we call it progress review, so that learners don't like sometimes the word tested, and if you test a learner too much, that can have a negative effect. So we refer to it as progress reviews, but it's supportive, and that's done nearly on a daily basis to some levels. So the learners, they learn, they practice, they demonstrate, they reflect, and then the cycle starts again on the next theme. We tend not to allow them to progress to the next theme until they're satisfied and comfortable with that first piece of skill that we teach. And then that allows them to build on those skills so that when we, for example, maybe servicing an outboard, we spend time on the changing of a spark plug, for example, before we move on to the next thing, so that when they then service the engine, they do the first stage almost automatically.
Thank you. And you touched on that in an earlier question when you said that the candidate, the pupil's ability to learn, because of this constant assessment, you can monitor that and then you can decide how fast they're going. And so you monitor then the training that they're doing in relation to what they're learning and the speed they're learning at. But how do you teach this constant assessment relationship with your instructors? Because that's a hard thing. It's a culture, isn't it? Not a skill. How do you get them to understand and apply that?
It is a culture. It's a culture in our learning environment. Our staff have that culture, and we share that with our learners. It takes time as they move through the levels. So at beginner level, some of what we teach is the culture in which we're teaching. So, because we don't want learners to move too fast, but we want them to move at the right pace. So it is all about culture. We do train our staff to understand that method, but because it works and we have evidence of it working, it's a very easy a culture to develop and grow. I would just go back to your point, Tim, because I think you made a really good point in your question, is that support sometimes is not always about improving the skills of an individual. It is about allowing them to move quickly and swiftly towards assessment. So if we do have learners at beginner level that are achieving tasks very quickly, we will move them up a level. And that's why my earlier answer to the question was, in general, it takes this long to become a skilled operative.
Just want to ask if you guys want to come in on that conversation.
네, 저는 지금 교육을 하고 있는 강사로서 지금 그 SDC 레벨 2를 가져와서 저희가 교육을 하고 있습니다. 이 교육이 과정이 끝나고 나면 저희는 순수하게 지금 엔진 쪽만 교육을 하고 있는 중이거든요. 하고 나와서 현장에 나가서 일을 하다 보면 필요한 과정들이 우리가 쭉 배운 전 시스템에서 필요한 시스템을 하나를 배우고 싶은 그런 시점이 있는가 봅니다. 그래서 저희는 아직까지는 단기나 단과라는 단독 과정을 만들진 않았는데 혹시 SDC에는 이런 단독 과정들이 그러니까 수료를 하고 나와서 다시 재교육을 받을 수 있는 단독 무슨 한 시스템을 교육한다든지 이런 과정들이 따로 있는지 이게 좀 궁금합니다.
Absolutely. So our level 2 programs are what we would class as intermediate. And this intermediate level will be the learner having a good understanding of the skills, whether it's marine engineering or boat building, of the skills in that field, and really being able to operate in industry. But you're quite right that that's not where the learning ends, and the learning can come through experience. And I think something you say there is really important, in that when learners experience the industry they're working in and they're becoming more comfortable with the tasks that they undertake, they will become motivated to learn more, to push on. And what we do is we spend time with our learners to understand what the next stage in their skills delivery is. So we have advanced courses, but our advanced courses can be broken down into smaller modules, so that some learners may not wish to learn the breadth. They may want to learn a specific skill, and our curriculum allows that to happen. So learners can come through the levels, do intermediate and do a full advanced level, or they can do part of an advanced level and build that up over time. What it allows them to do is to develop those advanced skills at their pace, and maybe their employer's pace as well.
Can I now throw open questions to the audience? Is there anyone in the audience that would like to ask a question?
예, 질문이 한 가지 있습니다. 저희는 이제 마린랜드라고 한국에서 머큐리와 시레이 같은 보트를 총판하고 있는 회사인데요. SDC에는 아까 이제 듣기로는 풀타임 코스가 있고 또 이제 재직자를 위한 이제 어프렌티스 코스가 있다고 들었는데, 그 재직자를 위한 온라인 코스 같은 것들도 운영을 하고 있는지요? 그리고 운영을 많이 하고 있다면 그런 것들이 해외에 있는 학생들한테도 오픈되어 있는지 좀 듣고 싶습니다.
There are some online options. The unfortunate thing is that we don't have those translated at the moment. What we tend to do is concentrate on our face-to-face delivery. We find that does have the best results, but it is an area that we are currently developing to support the wider industry. How we use our online learning in the UK is to do what we call level up. So when we run a full program in an area, we may introduce some online learning to fill gaps in individuals' learning, so that when they come to us, the learners are very much at the same level and ready to learn the full topic. I would just finish with, in answer to your question, watch this space. It is an area that we're developing.
Any other questions anyone want to ask? Steve, you satisfied the audience, and well done. Are there any questions that the panel would like to? So you're done. Steve, we've had a lot of your time, thank you. We've got about 30 seconds to go. Is there anything that you'd like to add to what you've said?
I'd just like to say that thank you very much for the opportunity to present our academy to the audience, to KIBS. We're very proud of that privilege. We of course worked with South Korea in the past, and we are very proud of that relationship we have as well. We are very excited if there's an opportunity to grow that relationship and support each other on the journey that we're both on.
Steve, thank you. And thank you again for your time. And the presentation was fantastic. Again, thank you. Thank you, panel.
Thank you. You're welcome. No problem.
Thank you very much.